Jahan Dotson.
Unbelievable catch and run by Jahan Dotson.
Draft week is finally here. Ron Rivera and the Commanders are hard at work crafting their board. We go one-on-one with the head coach and try to get insight on the draft strategy.
Brian, this is Coach Rivera of the Washington Commanders. How you doing?
Brian Robinson Jr., running back.
What I love is the physicality and the finish by Brian Robinson.
Plus, with plenty of prospects on the board to choose from, we dive into the film room to show you what this year's class could bring to Washington.
Sam Howell.
Now Keats runs back to the center of the field. At the 5, into the end zone.
Touchdown, Washington Commanders.
And after a successful rookie season, we take a look back at the 2022 draft class to highlight their success on the field. The Commanders Draft Preview Special is presented by SeatGeek, the official primary ticketing partner of the Washington Commanders. Hello and welcome in. Julie Donaldson with Fred Smoot and Logan Paulsen, and the draft is less than a week away. And one of the biggest question marks going into the draft is who gets selected number 1 overall. Logan, you would say?
For me, it's Bryce Young. I think he's the best kind of pure pocket passer. His vision's the best, his touch, his anticipation. All those things lead me to believe he's the best quarterback, so why not take him number 1?
They're just too easy. I'm going to go with the unicorn out the group, and we're talking about the Carolina Panthers. They did draft Cam Newton. Anthony Richardson is a Cam Newton clone with a splash of Michael Vick.
All right, so QB, you say, is what it is going to be. Now, Washington, well, look, we don't have that number 1 overall pick, so let's get into what Washington will be selecting. And they have 8 picks currently ahead of next week's draft. The first selection coming at 16 overall. Now, the team selected Jahan Dotson with the 16th pick in last year's draft, which they moved back for. They also have an additional 3rd and 6th round picks as they were earned as compensation for the losses of Brandon Sheriff and Tim Settle during free agency last season. So let's talk a little bit about the draft, and let's start with the first pick at 16 overall. Where do you see them going, Fred, with this? Who would you like them to come away with?
This is in love for Major Tutty. This is for the love of the Hogs of the past. I think they go with the offensive lineman because they have to match the offensive line with the defensive line. You shop there enough. You have to go with Mr. Donnell Wright, Tennessee. Ooh. He is a monster. He is everything I wish for on Christmas. Please, Santa Claus, bring me a Donnell Wright.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think offensive line is the way you probably want to go, especially with how the offensive line is weighted toward the front half of the draft. I think there's probably 6 or 7 guys that can start for you day 1. Those guys are going to go early, so get your guy early and get that DB later, maybe in the 2nd round.
When you do talk about positions of need, both of you are obviously saying offensive line is that. Now, look, in free agency, they did make some moves at offensive line as well. But is there position groups that you're going to go on here and say, let's make sure that we lock down this unit to strengthen us going into next year?
I personally think it's the offensive line, but everybody talks about linebacker. And it's a lot of linebackers out there, but you got to say which one fits what we want to do. Sanders, he's more a tall guy. But then when I look at a Jack Campbell, put him in the middle, let him run.
Yeah, I totally agree. Linebacker is really high on my list. Obviously, offensive line too. DB, I think just getting a true game-changing player there, maybe if there's a guy at 16. And then edge rusher is kind of a sneaky one. I think getting that kind of room filled out and building for the future, really important.
You know, we talk about free agency, and head coach Ron Rivera was telling us, Logan, that what you do in free agency kind of gives you a bit of leadway in how you're going to approach the draft. So what did you see them do in free agency that impacts what they might do this upcoming week?
Well, I think like Fred's been talking about this all week, is that they went out and got some really good offensive linemen, guys that kind of fill roles and guys that have a lot of position flex. So Wiley's a great example. Like he can play left guard, he can play right guard, he can play right tackle. So now I can draft a guard, I can draft a tackle and kind of supplement that group and fill that roster out. They brought in a free agent linebacker. I think that's an excellent decision. So you don't have to draft anybody and you don't have to press for a pick in this draft.
Coach Rivera's favorite two words, position flex. So he likes to get guys that can do multiple things.
Yeah.
So like you said, if you're going to get a tackle that can play guard, now he's universally exchangeable like the rest of these guys. So I wouldn't be shocked if he went corner. Also safety, somebody that can play a tweener between safety and corner and inside.
How much of, when you look at those positions that you need, how much of that factors into like selecting your players? Like what if you don't need a running back, you want secondary, but that running back's sitting there for you, Logan?
Yeah, I think we're going to talk about this a little bit later in the show. Like you tier your picks, right? You give them all specific values. If it's a first round player, like a top 5 player in the draft, and he falls to you at 16, you definitely got to kick the tires on that and say, man, you know, this isn't what we were thinking about, But is it the right fit for us? Yes, because he's the best player on the board. So entirely possible.
Yeah, I totally understand. Sometimes your hand is forced by what's delivered to you. And at 16, a lot of things can happen.
Which is why it's so hard to predict as well. And we will talk about that tier system and how it makes it easier for the coaching staff and the scouts to select their players on draft day. Now, predicting, it's near impossible on draft day, but our scouting department, well, they are working really hard to get ready for all the different scenarios. And of course, the experts, if you want to listen to them, they're leaning towards offensive line or the secondary for Washington at 16 overall. But for more now on the potential prospects that could be on the board when Washington is on the clock, let's head into the film room.
Fred, the draft is fast approaching. It's an exciting time of year. Tons of opportunity, and I think we could take a look at some guys maybe that aren't like household names. A couple of guys are household names, but a couple kind of new, fresh names to educate the fan base. Let's start with the guy who I think might be the best pure football player in the draft. He's not the biggest, not the strongest, not the fastest. Brian Branch, number 14 out of Alabama, plays that nickel safety spot.
He can make plays. Remind me of the Honey Badger. I brought that up to you now.
I love that. I love that comparison. See him here in coverage, covering a receiver. Again, he ran a 4.5, but it doesn't show up like that on the field. You know, a guy who plays faster.
I think he plays fast. On the field, he knows what he's going to get. And it tells me that's a guy that got it here. He knows what he's studying, and this play says it more than anything.
Yeah, talk to me about this play, Fred.
I bring him across the formation. He sees this outside guy. He goes over the hump.
Yep.
He don't chase him under there. That allows him to get open. And then watch this play. He turns his hip the wrong way and spins him back around. See, this is what I told you. Great DBs are great dancers.
Yeah, great dancers.
He just showed you the stanky leg right here. And then he goes to make that play. You gotta love that, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what every single play. And then here he is in the run game too, Fred. Yeah. He's undercutting this fullback here, dipping that inside shoulder, getting down and delivering a blow. He is not the biggest, strongest, fastest, but he might be the best football player.
And I'm with you on that. I just like how he got skinny right there. Got skinny. Nobody stops him. Make the play in the backfield. You're right about that.
And then here's our big fella, the big guy inside, Osiris Torrance. And, you know, he's a big guard. Maybe not the best run blocker, but what he does exceptionally well is he creates throwing lanes for the quarterback. You see here how he's holding this guy at the line of scrimmage, Fred? He's creating these throwing lanes for the quarterback to see. That's extremely advantageous for a young quarterback.
He's a space eater. He's a guy that comes in there and say, you know what? You take care of that D tackle. We're going to double team these edge guys. He can do that. But the problem on the next level, they're going to want to see him. His feet stop a lot. Can he keep his feet moving? Can he control the weight? And that's going to be the key.
Absolutely. But, you know, he's not the best run blocker, but he can do it. I think his real value add is in pass protection, right, Fred? Yeah, big, good pass protector, keeps the depth of that pocket, and a guy that I think you get a lot of fun. I really enjoy watching. He's number 31 from Iowa, Jack Campbell, right?
This is a
linebacker name. What a linebacker name.
This is 1985. This is a linebacker, Jack Campbell. I believe he played before. That's what I'm saying. And when I watch him, he shows me he's that linebacker, makes this tackle, comes back to the huddle, nosebleed, calls the play and say, let's do it again.
Let's do it again. Everyone says he's not a great athlete, but I see plays like this, Fred, and I'm like, man, like this seems like a pretty athletic dude, making a guy miss, getting in here, running down an athletic quarterback, getting him on the ground, and good football instincts, physical, like you said, but also really, really smart here, right? We've got this kind of motion here by the receiver. He knows I've got the quarterback.
Look at those eyes.
Yeah, he's hiding right here behind the double team. He says, I got the quarterback. Quarterback doesn't have the ball. I can get on this tackle. I love seeing guys, linebackers especially, who run and hit to the football.
Make their mind up and go inflict pain. They told me London Fletcher wasn't a great athlete. I played with a great athlete by the name of London Fletcher.
Here's your guy, Joy Porter Jr., right? This is kind of what you see. Tall, athletic, long guy, can make a ton of plays in coverage.
Pedigree is everything with this guy. Football IQ is everything with this guy, and he likes to get feisty. You know, I like this. The one thing about it, to get here and to challenge a receiver with 100 yards behind you, man on man, it takes a lot, and he seems to be comfortable doing that.
Very comfortable. You mentioned the arm length. You know, really outstanding football player. But maybe my favorite guy of the group that we're going to be talking about.
That's my favorite guy. Don't do that.
My favorite guy.
This is Bacon. This is Bacon right here. This is what I want.
And this is why we like him, right, Fred? Because he's going to be big. He's going to be nasty. He's going to say, get on the ground back there. I'm going to run with you. I got good feet. Here's Will Anderson, the best red rusher in the class. He says, I'll take those tickets from you real quick.
He didn't play this week. He didn't play this week.
Get out of here,
Go
right?
on. You got
Absolutely, right? And it's down in and down. He's going to pull here. Watch him just
Watch what he do to him.
Bow.
That's what I want. Displaying the people.
And that's something you don't see a lot from the top guys in this class, is that extra little bit of physicality. So here's moving people off the ball. Guys, he's one of my favorites. Obviously, why? There's a couple of names that I think stand out in this class, and I can't wait to see what Washington does at 16.
For everything you need to know about the team, do not miss our flagship show, Command Center. We're breaking down all the action on the field and keeping you up to date with everything that is happening off of the field. You can see every episode on the Commanders YouTube channel and the team's Facebook page. Now, coming up next, our 2022 draft class was the first ever as the Commanders. How did our rookies fare in their first NFL season? We're going to take a look back. Plus, Ron Rivera is preparing for his 4th draft here in Washington. We go inside his office to get a feel for the team's biggest needs ahead of the draft. This is the Commanders Draft Preview Special, presented by SeatGeek, the official primary ticketing partner of the Washington Commanders.
Hello. Sam Howell.
Touchdown, Tar Heels, and it's Sam Howell.
We want to take you with this pick coming up. First pick in the 5th round.
The Washington Commanders select Sam Howell, quarterback, North Carolina. Woo!
Reaching in for the end zone. This NFL stuff is easy.
You won't grab up. I know we're not going to expect good things, all right? Yes, sir. Thank you.
The Commanders' 2022 draft class brought talent and depth across the roster. First-round and late-round picks became starters. Mid-round picks proved to be the future, and others were sidelined from showcasing their full potential. While they're just getting started, we're taking a look back at their rookie season.
The Saints moved up from 16 5 spots, coughed up a 3 and a 4 in this year's draft to Washington.
With the 16th pick, the Washington Commanders select Julie Donaldson.
The Penn State product proved to be one of the elite receivers in the 2022 draft, making an immediate impact. In his rookie debut, Dotson posted 2 touchdowns, including the game winner over the Jacksonville Jaguars. The first ever Commanders draft pick stamped his name into the history books, leading the Commanders with 7 touchdowns on the season. Washington added another Alabama defensive tackle to the roster with their second-rounder, Phidarian Mathis. Despite a promising offseason, Mathis's season was cut short after suffering a knee injury in the first quarter of the Commanders' season opener.
With the 98th pick, Brian Robinson Jr., running back.
Washington's first-round trade with the Saints paved the way for the Commanders' third-round selection of Brian Robinson Jr. The running back out of Alabama had a breakout rookie season, leading the team with nearly 800 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. The Commanders' 4th-round selection safety Percy Butler became a key addition to the Commanders' dominant special teams unit. The Louisiana product appeared in 15 games in his rookie season.
Hello. Sam Howell.
How you doing?
It's Ron Rivera at the Washington Commanders. How you doing?
I'm good, Coach. How are you?
You hanging in there?
Yes, sir, I am.
All right, well, listen, we're up on the clock right now. We want to take you with this pick coming up. First pick in the 5th round.
Yes, sir.
All right?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Coach. You won't grab up.
The Commanders took care of the offensive side of the ball with both of their 5th-round selections, quarterback Sam Howell and tight end Cole Turner. The quarterback out of North Carolina served as a 3rd-string quarterback in 2022 before earning the start in Washington's season finale against the Cowboys. Howell threw for nearly 170 yards, including a touchdown and an interception. Turner joined the talented tight end room alongside veterans Logan Thomas and John Bates. The rookie took most of his snaps on special teams, appearing in 10 games throughout the season. The final round of the draft focused on bringing young talent to the Commanders' secondary and offensive line. Washington added Chris Paul to the O-line with the 230th pick in the 7th round. Paul got his first start of the season against the Cowboys, playing every offensive snap. To close out the 2022 draft class, Washington selected cornerback Christian Holmes. Holmes was the only Washington draft pick to appear in all 17 games last season. Washington's newest addition posted 12 tackles and 2 fumble recoveries in his rookie year. With the success of this past draft class, looking forward to seeing the talent head coach Ron Rivera and company bring to Washington this year. Head coach Ron Rivera is no stranger to the draft process. Selected 44th overall back in 1984 by the Chicago Bears. And as he enters this year's draft, will be the 14th season doing so as a head coach. So what goes into his strategy? Well, we try to find out with Coach and Logan in Coach's office.
Coach, man, been a really busy offseason for you, and I know the draft's coming up, so no rest for you.
No.
When did you start watching these prospects, and how did that process go for you this offseason?
Wow, this really has been a very busy one, and it really all starts with getting ready for free agency and the combine more so than anything else.
Right.
We got our free agency list and our initial combine list early in February, and that's really when we started. We started probably the second or third week of February. Got back after the Super Bowl, had our introductory meetings to both free agency and the combine, and just been working on it ever since.
Yeah, and so people always talk about how free agency affects the draft. Does the draft ever affect free agency? Do you ever look ahead and say like, oh, this is a really strong O-line class or whatever? And how did that impact this year?
It does. You look at it and you say, wow, there is going to be some good O-line depth in the draft, but there's also a couple of really good veteran offensive linemen we really like, so we were able to jump on that, and we feel very comfortable with what we did with free agency, because as far as the draft's concerned, it gives us an opportunity to say, okay, these are specific needs coming into the draft. We did fill this, and this. So as we look at it, now people say, well, is it position of need or is it best available?
Right.
Well, how about best available at positions of need?
Positions of need.
That's going to be a true thought. It really is, just because we have a few positions that we've ID'd and said, look, we did some really good things in free agency. We got some really good young guys that we've drafted the last couple of years that are fulfilling these spots, but we want to continue with the competition. We want to continue putting guys in position to compete. Let's see what's going to be available when we get to our pick 16 in the first round.
Yeah, and you always hear that term thrown around, like maybe best available prospect, best available player. Like, how do you quantify that? Because I think you kind of alluded to something there. It's not necessarily, Bijan Robinson or Anthony Richardson, quarterback, running back, whatever it is. It's kind of also how it fits within the roster too.
It does, because again, when you look at what we've done with the roster, coming out of this season with all the injuries that we had, especially on the offensive line, we had to seriously look at fixing that depth, because we got thin. We got thin with guys that are veterans, aged veterans, that we got to say, we can't get in that situation again where we're down 3 at one spot.
Sure. Obviously, there's all this kind of analytics and data and money associated with the draft, but I think you get to do something pretty cool and get and make that phone call on draft day and talk to those guys. Like, how is it, giving someone the opportunity to like live out their dream, and what are those conversations like? And do you have a favorite one that sticks out to you?
Gosh, it is pretty cool. It really is, because, for the most part, a lot of these young men, these are their dreams. This is what they've worked for. This is what they want to become. And to be able to talk to guys, hey, look, you're going to be a commander, and to not just hear them, but their family's reactions, like when they first pick up the phone and you tell them who you are, and the guy, and you hear the players say out loud, it's the commander, it's Coach Rivera. I mean, and then you can kind of hear the silence as everybody's waiting for them to tell them. And once they tell them, you hear the euphoria. And what's really neat is when it syncs up with the announcement on television.
Oh, nice.
That's always a cool thing, because when it comes across on TV and you hear it, that's really cool.
I mean, you said silence, but I remember Big Phil last year. I saw his call in, and I don't think anybody could hear anything.
Yeah.
Everyone was screaming, and like his whole family, his cousins, everybody is there. Like, how'd that conversation go?
Just the excitement of it. Hey, how do you feel about being a commander? Oh man, Coach, this has been great, and then you just hear it in the background. You just know it.
Yeah, do you have a favorite one of all time? Like a guy that you're like, man, I can't believe that.
I thought Sam Cosme's was really a cool one a couple years ago.
Why was that?
Just because he was sitting there with his whole family and his fiance, who is now his wife.
Right. Mm-hmm.
He was recently married, so you see that and you hear that and you just go, wow, that's really cool.
That's awesome. Coach, thank you so much, man. Right. Good luck with the draft this year, and excited to see what you guys do.
Thanks, Logan.
This Thursday night, make sure to watch our Command Center Draft Night coverage. We will have all the bases covered starting before the opening round on Thursday. Then we will be live again when Washington is on the clock to help break down the latest pick. Make sure to check us out Thursday and Friday nights on the Commanders YouTube channel for all your draft night needs. Still to come, Washington has had success in the later rounds of their drafts recently. We discuss the importance of the picks made beyond the first round. You are watching Commanders Pre-Draft Special presented by SeatGeek, your ticket to great Commander seats. Welcome back. Commanders fans, we want to include you in the draft celebrations by inviting you to our official draft party presented by SeatGeek, the official primary ticketing partner of the Commanders. The party will take place from 11 to 4 p.m. on Saturday, April 29th at the National Harbor. Washington has 5 picks slated for the final 4 rounds, and fans will have the opportunity to meet the first-round pick as well as current and former Washington legends. To RSVP for complimentary tickets, visit commanders.com/draft party. And speaking of legends, well, here are a few of ours sharing their draft day memories.
I was sitting at home outside, and I got a phone call from Steve Spurrier at the time, who was the coach, and he was like, Rock, you ready to be a Redskin at the time? And I was like, yeah. He's like, we about to draft you. And then at the time, Hugh Jackson was the running back coach, and he got on the phone and said, we about to draft you, big head. I said, I don't see my name on the TV. He was like, it's coming. And then, 30 seconds later, it popped up and said they had drafted me. So it was a great moment. I was sitting at home with my parents, and it was like a big party on the street.
By the time draft week comes, you've already done the combine, you've already done your pro day, you already kind of got a feel for how things are going to go. You get your feedback from your agent, you already did all of your other workouts for the scouts after your pro day and after the combine anyway. So you kind of got a feel for everything. So that week was very calming. Actually, draft day, the day I got drafted, my grandmother had to wake me up because I was in the bed taking a nap. I was in the bed taking a nap from watching the draft, and she woke me up and told me the 49ers was on the phone, and that was that.
Originally, leading up to the draft, no one even thought I was, they thought I was going to be low, 5th round, maybe further than that. I had a couple of good postseason games. Then I did well at the combine, and so, my stock went pretty high, I guess, but no one really said anything. And so then the day of the draft, I'm sitting by the phone. I'm at a friend's house. I'm sitting by my phone. My mom was there, and I get this call from the Cardinals, and they said, Ken, this is the 12th pick in the first round. And they're like, Ken, how would you like to be a Cardinal? And I'm like, okay, sure. Because they never talked to me. I hadn't heard anything from them. And they're like, hold on a second. All of a sudden, I hear my name called, and I'm that guy. So it was kind of cool. But that moment, it happened, I was kind of like, all right, now, in my mind, I was like, I'm going to prove to them why they got a bargain and give me a number 12. And that was kind of my goal, was to show them that they got more than they really thought they had.
I was calling pranks. I impersonated the general manager of the Rams. And I called my roommate, told him we drafted him. And I swear to God, I feel bad about it now. But at the time, it was the single funniest thing we'd ever been a part of in my life. And he accepted it. I said I was Jack Faulkner. And Severn Reese was my roommate at UCLA. And he thought he was a Ram. He's from LA too, so I can't do it with a straight face. But seriously, it was awful. It was awful. And I apologize. Yeah, but of course, they had it done to me too. I mean, they were doing it all over. So when the guy called Boy Dollar called me in Cincinnati, I thought it was a prank. So I started off, he thought I was a jackass because, I didn't buy into it. So really, don't do that to young people. Just let it go.
Some classic stories right there. Okay, so now we know the NFL draft is more than just the first round pick, and as of late, Washington has done a pretty good job locating talent in the later rounds of the draft, adding a starting caliber player on day 3 of the draft just last year. Goes to show that you have to pay close attention as the draft moves on, and to do that, we were talking about the tier system, Fred, and how that really kind of helps the staff and the scouts select those players, especially when you get deep into the draft.
Well, first of all, you got tier 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it takes, but it's a time thing. Once a team picks, you on the clock, you got to go, and they just took your man before you, and the other team took the other guy that you wanted. Now it transitions, you say, let's trade back, let's make them things happen. It's more of a decision-making clause, I think.
Yeah, it just helps you stay organized, I think, and kind of identify guys that fit your scheme, and maybe you get a guy that you have a higher round grade on that falls to you in the 4th or 5th round. That's where you get the value. That's where you get the meat of the roster that kind of is the backbone. You see all those names on that list? Those are the guys that are your kind of your every down guys that really help you out. So it's extremely important to find those guys in later rounds.
And it's important to make sure you get the right guy when it comes to those that are even undrafted later, because Logan, you yourself himself, not drafted,
Yeah.
still had a 10-year career in the NFL.
Yeah, I got lucky. You got to be a little bit lucky, a little good. And in some ways, being undrafted is a huge benefit because you get to pick the team you get to go to. So I sat down with my agent, got to find the best location for me to be successful. Just so happened to be here in Washington. So, don't cry for those guys. They can find the best spot for them.
First of all, that's where 30% of the NFL is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Undrafted guys. So, one first round a year, 12 years, there's only 12 players.
And you can't forget, like, London Fletcher. Perfect example of what he did here for Washington, up to be in the Hall of Fame. And don't forget, he was undrafted.
Yeah.
So you can't dismiss those later rounds. You can't dismiss the guys that do not get drafted. But there's so much work that goes into it. And right now, so much speculation. But within a week, we will officially have the players joining our roster as a new draft class. And that does it for this show, though, everybody. Thanks for joining us on this draft preview special. For Logan and Fred, I'm Julie. We'll see you next time.